Hi there, everybody. Just putting myself in the screen. Hi. So, welcome to a little half an hour where I talk about Thanksgiving. And so, I'm here in California. It's Wednesday, the 23rd of November. And I'm already starting to feel the buzz, the pressure, the collective kind of craziness around Thanksgiving. I went to Trader Joe's yesterday and it was palpable, right? That kind of grabbing desperation and also kind of fun feeling. You know, there was mums and daughters like chatting about who was going to do what. And all that to say is this is a very can be a really intense time of the year. Now, I personally am not from America. I wasn't brought up in this culture. And for me, it's really interesting because I have never celebrated Thanksgiving. I never had the belief systems, the cultural expectations of Thanksgiving. And it means that I come to view this seasonal feast with a really neutral, observant lens. That I kind of like I'm a little alien dropped into America, and it's like all of a sudden these people are going crazy around November 24th, and there's a lot of turkey stuff going on, and so not being in the pond allows me to really have that witnessing aspect. And that's really what I wanted to share with you today. The things that I've noticed around Thanksgiving and bringing in the energy view of things, and then also talking a little bit about Ayurveda and digestion. Because even, like 2 weeks ago in my yoga classes here in California, there's a lot of talk about, can we do stuff, before Thanksgiving? It's right, there's a feeling of, oh my God, we're going to be like overwhelmed with food. Can we start to kind of mitigate the damage before Thanksgiving? It's usually a lot of requests for core. But let's start with, first of all, thinking, and I want to talk a little bit about the energetics of Thanksgiving and why it is such a potent day, why this day has so much around it. It's not just like any other day in the calendar where we wake up and we get up and just do our thing. So from an energetic point of view, in my background with polarity, we view ourselves as these electromagnetic beings, that you are made up from cells, and those cells have positive charges and negative charges and a neutral. And your cell, your energy body, which expands a little bit beyond your physical body, is like a Wi-Fi receptor. And we all have it, and we use it unconsciously, but it is what really helps us to navigate in this world, right? Knowing it's in the part of our brain or even beyond the brain that knows, but we can't really know it like you would know a piece of information. So this energy body around us is also filled with negative, positive, and neutral ions. And it's reading the situation at all times. And it's giving the physical body feedback, right? So let's say I go into a place where it's really out of balance for me, like it's too charged, I feel like too anxious, too many people, there's too much stimuli. My intuition, we would call it intuition, but I would say this guidance system would bring us to go to, like, let's take the quiet staircase instead of the one that's really busy and noisy. Or maybe I'm feeling, maybe my energy is in a more negative place and a kind of a little slumpy, and I pick up that there's some buzz going on, and it's like, yeah, go join the buzz. So I like to think of this energy bubble around me at all times, guiding me. And of course, everyone has this bubble. Now, when we go into rooms with other people, then what happens is it's like our bubble with all of these negative, positive ions and so on start to buffer against others, right? And things that are similar towards each other can start to play with each other. So let's say I'm going into a room and there's a lot of stimuli. There's like eyes, there's smells, there's talk. It's much more activating than me just sitting on my couch. My energy field starts to get a little bit charged. We would say in polarity, it's charged. And then I start to interact with another energy field that's also charged, because our thoughts and our beliefs can or do influence this field around us. So it's a two-way system. You're taking information from your environment that affects your field, and your thoughts have emotions that affect your field going outward. So here we are, my field's buzzed up, charged up. Now I'm in contact with Auntie Jeannie, and her field's buzzed up and charged up. Now we have this little thing going on. In normal circumstances, this happens all the time, right? We kind of bump into each other energetically and we move out the way. The difference with Thanksgiving is, now there's a few different things. Well, the first thing is that even before we step into the room, we have preconceived notions. We step in knowing that, you know, Auntie Jean always annoys us because she eats with her mouth full, and Uncle Bob always starts an argument, and Cousin Vinny will always be making inappropriate comments, right? So we come in with preconceived notions about how these people are going to be, and that even before we get in the room starts to trigger us. Then we're in the room, now we're bouncing around, and as I said, normally what we would do is we would seek the balance by going outside, doing something different, getting out of the charge. Now, most people, from what I hear, excuse me, I'm just going to have a little coffee. Most people, from what I hear, their Thanksgiving dinners are pretty lengthy affairs. So you're held in this space, bouncing off each other for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. That's a long time. Now, what does this have to do with digestion, and what does this have to do with Ayurveda and digestion, and how can you get out of it? Because you have to go, you know all of this, right? I'm just explaining it perhaps in different terminology, you already know it. Well, the first thing to say is when we are charged up, right, when we're in that positive like place, the digestive system is not functioning as well as it might be, and you know, we have that feeling of tightness in the abdomen, nervousness before we even go into the situation. So I'm going to suggest that doing even your prep work today, right, like in the same way that you might be prepping vegetables, I want you to be doing like your energy prep work. So your energy prep work is this, and this is the truth. Even though Uncle Vinny or Cousin Vinny always makes the lewd jokes, and Uncle Bob usually does this, and Auntie Jeannie always does that, that is a thought that you're having about this, and it's almost like a self-serving prophecy. When we have that thought and we're running that energy, it's almost like we put these people in boxes so they have really no option but to play out their thing. So maybe your energetic prep today could involve just saying to yourself, when you notice a thought about, oh God, Uncle, or even worse, having conversations with a partner about, oh God, Uncle Vinny's going to do this, or Cousin Vinny's going to do that, holding the potential that they might not, right? As much as they might do that, you don't know, it's a future thing. right? Yes, there's probability. Yes, they've done it for 20 years, right? But it's not to say you do not know if they're going to do it tomorrow. Can you also hold the possibility that they might do something different? That gives them the energetic choice to do something different. So you actually start to recreate the possibilities of what Thanksgiving dinner could look like. So that way you're not going in with preconceived notion and already the charge. Then let's get down to these 7 tips, right? Because the energy comes first, the energetic component comes first, and then we can get into the actual tips from or suggestions from Ayurveda around, well, they're general suggestions around digestion. Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga. I think of it like the lifestyle science that goes, or the lifestyle practice that goes with a yogic practice. I used to think of it more like this and more kind of like classical and yogi. Quite frankly, given the state that we are all in at the moment in terms of stress, digestion, autoimmune problems, I believe that this system that is 5,000 years old is basically a wellness, it's like a pre-packaged wellness care package for everyone these days, whether you do yoga or not. So let's get down to some of the precepts from, or the concepts from Ayurveda. These people, like the yogis, the sages, the Vedics that were studying like how best to exist as a human being, really took so much time, energy, effort to be looking at the energy component of digestion. And we're not just a big gut. The gut is related to the outer field, right? We know that. When we start to feel nervous, the gut, it has an impact on the gut. We want to be as kind to our gut as possible. And just before I give you the 7 tips, reminding yourself that your digestive system, we often get very compartmentalized with the digestion. We tend to think of the digestion just being like our bellies, right? Like as if this is like all of a sudden the food just goes here. The digestive process begins with your mind, your thoughts about the food. It then moves to your eyes. Being able, even like in the third eye, being able to see in your mind's eye what you would like to eat or what you would like to have. Or maybe you're imagining the picture of the Thanksgiving dinner and it already has an impact on the digestive system. If you were in my little club, then we often do some imagination work and look at how, you know, just imagining the food starts to get those juices, the gastric juices going without there being anything. So then, you know, we have the sense of smell, and then finally we actually eat the food. So this is where the food goes in, right? It's in the tongue, it's in the mouth, and there's a special tissue inside. You'll notice that the tissue inside your mouth is different from the skin on your body, right? It has this absorbent quality to it, so it's able to, like the skin is a little bit repellent, the mouth is absorbent. And then it moves down the esophagus and then into the stomach, and it starts to be broken down part by part. It's kind of like a helter-skelter. It goes side to side, all the way down and into the small intestine. And then finally, the last part is where the final nutrients are extracted, and then we go to elimination. So it's a big process. It's not just the stomach. And it's a heavy lifter. The digestive system is really what keeps you alive, and without it, you would not exist, right? And it's a powerful system, so we want to respect it. So I think the first thing to do is, the first tip is tonight, today, the 23rd, is to eat lightly and to maybe create a little bit more space between our meals, right? So we're going to have something pretty big tomorrow. Big not only in terms of the amount of food, but big energetically, holding others' family members together, right? That's big energetically. So in balance to that, doing a little bit more on the negative. So like not eating late tonight, stopping your dinner at like 8 o'clock. So you create this, now we would say a fast, but yes, a spaciousness between what's today and then going into tomorrow. So finishing dinner by 8 o'clock, avoid eating snacks and stuff tonight, just to give your digestion a good solid, at least 12 hours rest before the turkey starts coming in. Then the second thing is, if you can fast all the way through to Thanksgiving dinner, that would be ideal, but it depends really on your own constitution, and it depends on what time you're eating at. So let's say you're someone who really needs a breakfast, then keeping your breakfast tomorrow very light and avoiding fruit and dairy together. This is one of the huge things I see in the Western culture, the blueberry smoothies and this smoothie culture where it's fruit and dairy together. It is the wrong energies. It's like friends that shouldn't be together. It's like a bad partnership, right? All they do is squabble. Well, all they do in your gut is squabble and ferment, right? They're different. If you want to eat some fruit, eat some fruit. Eat light fruit. If you want to have some dairy, have dairy, but don't mix and match. So avoid smoothies in the morning. And then, third thing is, I know it's probably too late now, and you definitely don't want to rock the boat even more by calling your mom, and after you've seen this video, and being like, Mom, could we move the Thanksgiving dinner back from 4 p.m. till 12? But ideally, and just FYI in the future for other big meals, the best time to eat in terms of helping your digestive system is between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. This is in Ayurveda the time of Pitta, when we have the most fire and water in our system, and that really means bile. So 12 p.m. till 2 p.m. the bile is at its highest, the fire is ready, and it's going to be able to burn through heavier or more food than other times during the day. So that's tip number 3. Number 4, and this kind of relates all the way back to the other things about creating a fast the night before, keeping a breakfast very light or even avoiding it, and then having like that earlier lunchtime, is slowing down. We often get into this kind of panicked place where we want to just get into the food, and I want you to slow down. When you are prepping the food, if you can prep the food, in fact, right, because it's shown that when you prep the food and your hands are actually touching the food, the oils from the food, the smells from the food are actually informing it's like you have a little chemistry set inside here, because it's not just like it creates bile, it creates exactly the right bile to match what's coming in. So if you can, go into the kitchen before the Thanksgiving meal, smell the food, don't start picking at the food, and I'll come a bit about that why. Smell the food, don't taste the food, feel the food with your hands, get in there with, peeling spuds or carrots or whatever, because that is starting to build this agni, this fire, right? That's when we have that strong fire, we can eat well, and it just digests really well without that feeling of sluggishness. So getting that agni, that real like kind of gnarly like feeling of hunger is great. It means the bile is ready. And then avoiding the nibbles, right? As soon as we start to eat, that agni, that fire is dampened. And more than anything is when we start nibbling, what happens is we start the digestive process. When something comes into the stomach, but it takes about an hour to get it out of the stomach and into the rest of the system. However, if we keep eating on top, there's like a little, like a hatch, like a flap door, like a trap door. If the stuff isn't broken down enough, the trap door doesn't open. If you are eating on top of the first thing that went in, the signal from the brain is like there's stuff in the stomach, we can't open the hatch. But if you've been eating like every 20 minutes and it's building up, what's happening is the stuff that went in first is not being released out, and that builds gas and that builds fermentation. So avoiding the nibbles. Now we're past the prep, you've got there, you've avoided the nibble, you've been in the kitchen, you've smelt the food, you've got the agony up. Now you're at the table. And another thing that I see happen in America that does not happen in Europe is this idea of serving water with the meals. And even beyond just water, it's often seen as kind of like, I don't know, classy or polite. I don't really understand why, but the iced water. Now, we've just worked all the way to build this great bonfire ready to take the food in. And then there you go, minutes before the moment of starting to eat, what happens is people pour not just water in, but iced water. Now that fire is completely dampened, and then you get started with the food. For me, this makes no sense. I do not know where this comes from. It's like the biggest faux pas. When I teach people about digestion and Ayurveda, there's just this such a aha moment of like, that makes so much sense, Nic, and why do we even do that? So definitely avoiding ice in the water. And if you can, avoid that big glass of water. If you really need water, drink it in the morning when you want to flush out everything from the night before, right? So you're hydrated. If you absolutely need a little bit of water, sip a tiny bit, so you're not dampening out that fire. So I'm just going to run through again tonight, doing a fast, right? Not eating after, eating lighter tonight, eating something maybe like a soup or something tonight. Tomorrow morning, if you need a breakfast, keeping it light, a piece of fruit, very good, just enough, but no dairy involved, no smoothie situation. Stay away from heavy breads that take a little bit longer to digest. If you can, eat between 12 and 2, the time of pitta, when the bile is highest. Avoid slowing down eating, slowing down prepping the food. Avoid nibbles, so you don't end up with fermentation. Stay away from the iced water. And then the last thing is, in Ayurveda, they say you should eat 2/3 of your potential. And that last third should be left for the joy of being with the community and the gratitude for having the food. So you can always take things away to go and have them for later. I sometimes like to do that. It's like I get to revisit the joy again, but not pushing yourself so that you are just in this place where the belly's like just overflowing. If you've slowed down eating, if you really consciously know as you're eating and be aware of the joy of seeing your food, putting it in your mouth, holding it in your mouth, allowing that tissue on the inside of your mouth to absorb and really like nourish you. That's where the nourishment comes. We're still very conscious here. By here we're a little less conscious. Then enjoying the feeling of it coming into the belly and that feeling of like, like having that. Being conscious as you're eating, and oftentimes the joy is within the first few bites. But maybe we've got a little bit of people pleasing going on, that we're often eating to please others. So setting up some boundaries for yourself and leaving space for joy and gratitude for your Thanksgiving meal tomorrow. If you are interested in finding out a little bit more about Ayurveda, and I have a sheet I call 12 touch points of joy. So it's moments of joy throughout your day, around food, around eating, around digestion. Then I'll pop that into the chat and you can grab it. So wishing you all a fabulous Thanksgiving. Signing off now. Take care.